Well, Australian cattlemen are accusing the federal government of deliberately stalling the payment of compensation over the 2011 ban on live cattle exports. I'm old enough to remember that disastrous period of time, and this compensation by any account is way overdue. The hold-up is based on a disagreement over how much compensation should be paid. Gillian Fennell runs a lazy million acres at Lambina Station in far north South Australia. She's been on the land for 20 years and she joins me now from the schoolroom at her home. Gillian, thank you so much for your time. How is it out the back of outback South Australia this evening?
It is glorious here today, Gemma. We've had some rain. We're really looking forward to a nice lazy Christmas before we can get stuck back into everything in the new year.
Not that there's a shortage of things to do when you're running a million acres. Gillian, the ban on the live export trade only lasted 3 months, but the impacts are still being felt, aren't they?
They certainly are. We were affected in the sense that we don't live export our cattle, but we send our cattle into southern markets. And with that snap ban, people had cattle in hand and they needed to get rid of them. It became a true animal welfare issue. And so those cattle came south, they flooded the southern markets, they drove prices down. So it had an effect on the entire cattle industry of Australia that it's taken years to recover from. Some people never recovered because it was just so unexpected, and it was just so violent in its implications. And, you know, I think the general public got a taste of what that was like over COVID when their jobs suddenly shut down while they were in quarantine. And you know, we're not asking, like the claimants, I guess, aren't asking for anything that's unfair that they're not entitled to. They've been waiting over a decade for this. Yeah. And I think it's about time that it was settled.
I was going to say, I mean, 12 years, I want people to just stop and pause and put that into some kind of perspective. You've had a dispute, you've had a win in court, and you've been told that you're eligible for compensation. And 12 years later, you're still waiting for that compensation to come. Has the Minister been clear about why there are these continual hold-ups and why it's not being transparent?
I guess probably the biggest thing is that the Commonwealth believes that they've made a good faith issue that is covering everyone's costs, but the claimants themselves think that offer was not acceptable, and they've made a counter offer. And, you know, I really think that the government has a responsibility to be a model litigant, and for successive years they have not been that way. And it really shapes our faith in any government to act this way.
Well, I was going to ask you a question more broadly, because the Minister, Murray Watt, started very well in his portfolio. I think you could agree with his position on issues important such as biosecurity, for example. How has the way this issue is being handled affected the relationship with the industry, from your take?
When the foot and mouth and the lumpy skin disease threat first came from the northern parts of Asia and those sorts of areas, Murray and the department handled it really well, worked really closely with industry, listened really closely to what we wanted. And now, though, when we're talking about settling the cattle live-ex case and the impending sheep live-ex ban, we're starting to really lose faith and be really disappointed.
Gillian, taking a little bit of a sidestep, if I can, before I let you go, what does Christmas look like on a million acres? How many hours from Adelaide are you? Just give our viewers a bit of perspective.
So we're about 11 hours from Adelaide, 5 hours from Alice Springs, which would be our nearest, I guess, what you'd call major centre. Coober Pedy just a 2.5 hour drive down the road.
Just around the corner.
Yeah. Christmas for us is just going to be, you know, swimming in the dam, eating lots of yummy Australian food, and, just chilling out for the day before we go back to work on Boxing Day.
Well, it sounds very Australian, and we look forward to hearing a little bit more from you, Gillian, in the coming weeks. Thanks so much for your time tonight.